you came on a trip, right, to visit. What made you decide to stay? And you have some great news too.
Well,
To go with that.
well,
What made
that's
you
later.
decide to
That's
stay?
later in the story. That's later in the story.
But let's back it up a little bit.
Backing
So
up.
when you first,
the first
2020.
yes, in 2021. Yeah, I just
Okay. It was a
I
visit.
felt it. Yeah, it was a visit. It was just a holiday. You know, planned to be here for about 5 days. Ended up being here about 3 weeks, and just fell in love with it and just planned to come here. Because from that at that point, I didn't see the lockdown ending, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna be trapped, let me be trapped in a wonderful place. You know, so that's how I ended up just up and then moving to Zanzibar. In terms of now coming to Dar last year, got married.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's the
Met
news.
yes, that's the news. Yeah, met
Congrats.
yeah, met a wonderful Tanzanian woman, and you know we were recently married. Yes, my Zanzibar friends, you know, my Zanzibari friends are like, you stole them because I packed up everything and left Fumba, and I've been in Dar es Salaam since July of last year.
Congratulations.
So I gotta
Thank you.
Now you've been all around the world. You've been to South America. You've been different countries in Africa, the United States of America. What made you, or what about your Tanzanian wife that made you choose her out of everything you saw in the world?
I don't know. It was just a vibe. We met and we just clicked, you know, and it just worked. You know, I like to say she's, you know, she was educated outside of Tanzania, and so I think she's Western enough that it's not difficult for me, and I'm African enough, I guess, that it's not difficult for her. Yes, yeah. I was asked, funny story, those were the questions I got asked when I told folks I was marrying a Tanzanian woman. They asked, does she speak English? I'm like, yes, her English is better than mine. You know, she has to translate for me sometimes. But yeah, it's, you know, so, yeah. When you meet the one, you meet the one.
Nice.
So,
That's awesome. And congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
you guys are here in Dar now.
yes.
All right. How long have you been here total now? Since 2021?
So since 2021, I would say if it were uninterrupted, it would be 4 years in November. But I was in the States in 2023 for about 6 months.
Okay. And when you went back to the States, how did that feel? Was that for a visit? Or?
It was visits, work-related stuff,
Okay.
Conferences, you know, a bunch of things, a bunch of life changes that I had to deal with, and it was easier to deal with them in the States.
Okay.
So, but reverse culture shock is real.
Yes.
So it was odd to go back, and you know, the portions of food seemed huge.
Okay.
You know, I didn't realize how salty and sweet most of our food in the States is. What else? I was like, was it always this loud and crowded? You know, there were a lot of. It took some adjusting, driving on the wrong side of the road a couple of times.
So do you drive here? You drive here?
Sometimes. Most of the time I just ride a boat, but I drive every now and then.
What is the process for U.S. citizens to be able to drive here? I just wanted to ask.
I just paid a fee and got a foreign driver permit that lasts 90 days.
Okay.
So basically, every time I come back, you know, I'm on the tourist visa. I come back every 90 days, renew the visa, get my driver's permit.
So, by you being married to a Tanzanian, do you get like a residency here or anything?
Nope. Very patriarchal. So if the roles were reversed, so as a foreigner married to a Tanzanian woman, I get no benefits essentially. But where a Tanzanian man to marry a foreign woman, he could claim her as his dependent, and she could get residency that way.
Okay.
So, but as far as residency, it would be the same as any other thing. Either start a business and get a residence permit, some type of investment, a retiree visa, a student visa, one of those things. Haven't figured that out yet. It will likely, there's some things we want to do, so we'll probably start a business together and they'll get residency that way. But for now, we have an excuse to go on holiday every 3 months.
Vacation. So, I know, the wedding ceremony and marriage is probably different from the way we do it in the U.S. How was that? How was that?
Oh yes, it's very different. Here, it's really a joining of families more than the joining of two people.
Okay.
So even before, when we decided to get married, I had to write a formal letter and be formally presented to her parents and meet and state my intentions. And then from there, it's called the Mashinga. And that's matchmaker, sponsor, broker, whatever you like to call it. So essentially I have one and her family has one. And through them, they serve as the intermediaries where we negotiate mahari, or the dowry that has to be paid for me to marry her. And again, it's not direct communication. To a certain extent, it felt like junior high school. So I have to write a note, give it to my friend friend gives it to someone else, who gives it to them, and then reverse. So we come to an agreement on a price, we set a date, we get together. On Mahari Day, you pay the dowry, and there's a big feast. It's nice. Us and 350 of our closest friends, got together, and that was, the actual engagement day and all of that. And then from there, there's traditions like, the aunties teaching her to be a good wife and all these things. We kind of skipped through some of the steps, and they sped it up. Ultimately, I'm a foreigner, so a lot of things that, had I been coming from another Tanzanian tribe, there would have been more back and forth and things like that. But a lot of stuff just didn't apply.
Okay.
So we go from there. She has a usiku wa zawadi, which is like a bridal shower. We have send off, which is when she's actually given to me as my wife, and then we had formal wedding, which is where you actually get the legal bit, so that it's recognized. So, but yeah, it was a very interesting process, and learned a lot about Tanzanian culture going through it.
We're the unapologetic nomads.